Foreclosures are on the rise in some areas, and I wanted to make sure, as a first-time home buyer, if you were thinking about doing something like this, like bidding on a foreclosure in your area, you kind of know how the process typically works. Now, this is a foreclosure auction, and so I went to my local foreclosure auction in Georgia, so I can give you an idea. I took some video, took some pictures, what you would likely to what you're likely to see at your foreclosure auction. And then after this video, you can watch, how to buy a foreclosure, that video. So, but this is really just about the auction process. So I'm going to go over 3 things that you need to be prepared. And while I'm going over that, I'm going to show like the foreclosure process going on. Then I'm going to lead to an actual bidding process. So I'm going to have you see like people bidding on a property and then a payment process after that. So you'll have an idea and you'll be prepared to attend a foreclosure auction in your area. All right, I'm Shaheedah Hill, getting you over the hill to home ownership and helping you confidently buy your first home. So let's get right into it. Hopefully I'm going to do this without sound. So this is the local foreclosure in my area. So one thing you want to be prepared for is that you have to find out when the foreclosure auctions are held. Now, they usually have foreclosure auctions and tax lien. If people don't pay their taxes, then they may have auctions on those properties. And then, foreclosure is when people don't pay their mortgage and then the bank takes that over. So you may have 2 types of auctions in your city: tax lien auctions, failure to pay your property taxes, and they auction off that property. And then foreclosure auctions when the person does not pay their mortgage and the bank takes over. So 2 types of auctions. This one was a foreclosure auction specifically. And in my area, they happen the first Tuesday of every month. But you can just Google your county, your area, and say foreclosure auction, location, time, date, and you should be able to find it pretty easily. So that's number 1. You have to find out when and where they're being held. And then mine in my area are at the courthouse. So they're outside the courthouse. I've talked to some other people that say they're inside, and I feel like that's more of a weather thing, because I think most of the foreclosure auctions in Georgia are outside. But because, some of you live in really cold climates, they may be inside more often than outside. But you want to find that out as well. But all the foreclosure auctions are outside in Georgia for the most part. All right, so let's go to some things like, how are you going to find these foreclosure listings in order to bid on them? So you're going to get the foreclosure listings ahead of time. In order for either the state or the bank to foreclose on a property, they have to usually list it, give public notice. And most of the time, they're giving that public notice in your local newspaper. So yeah, a lot of them are still using newspapers. So you can find your local newspaper. You can subscribe to that newspaper. You can find it at your local library. But most of the time, you'll be able to find those listings in your local newspaper. And then if you're not finding them there, there's auction.com or foreclosure.com. And I'll have a link below to a affiliate link for foreclosure.com if you want to, use their my free trial. All right, so you'll be able to find them in all of those places. The auction.com and foreclosure.com, they do allow you to get more information. They kind of gather it for you. So it's a little bit more organized, because sometimes with the paper, you have to find the right edition of that paper where it's going to be published, that sort of thing. So it's a little bit easier online. So then you want to research those properties. A lot of times you can't tour the property before the auction because it may be occupied. It may not be safe for you to do so. So you want to try to find out as much information about that property as possible. You can have a local attorney or a local title company pull title and make sure that title's clean. They don't have that many liens on the property. And sometimes the other sites, they may help you research that as well. You want to look around, drive around that neighborhood, look around that property. You may not want to get out your car, but, just drive around so you can see where that property is. do some research ahead of time so you know what would be a reasonable bid on that property, like what are homes going for in that area. Because if you're doing an auction, you're trying to get a deal, right? You're trying to get something that's going to be lower priced than you would typically pay for that property. So just make sure you're doing as much research as possible. I went to two of our foreclosure auctions probably in the last 6 months. And you're seeing a lot of the same people out there, a lot of investors. You are going to see them, they have clipboards, they have, their list. So they know before they come out there what properties they're going to bid on. They know the maximum they'll probably offer for that house. So they're very organized when they're coming out there to bid. And again, I'm going to show you the bidding process in a second. And then lastly, you want to know what to expect. I really recommend before you bid on anything that you attend an auction just so you can see how it works. You don't want to, you don't want your first time bidding on a property is the first time you've ever gone to an auction. So maybe, figure out what time it is, take off that day, or maybe you're not working that day, and just stay at the auction so you can see the process. And like, how long is the auction? Hours start at 10 o'clock and they can go through 4 o'clock. So, and it, it's not auctioned all that time. Different people come at different times that day to facilitate the auction process. So you want to know, how long is the auction process for that day. Different legal, usually banks hire law firms to do the auction process for them. So different legal representatives come and then they start the bidding process. And you also need to be prepared to pay on site. You can't just, get an FHA loan, a conventional loan. Most of the time in most areas, they want you to pay that day. Some areas I've heard they give you 24 hours to make the full payment, but a lot of times in Georgia, they want the full payment right then. And so you're not bringing a whole bunch of cash with you, but they do want, a cashier's check. And so because you don't know the exact amount that you're going to, bid, or the exact amount that you're going to win, the bid that you're going to win, you're going to have different denominations of cashier's checks. And then you put those all together for the final amount. So that's how you're prepared. So if you're going to, the maximum you're going to bid is, $10,000, maybe $50,000. Then maybe you have cashier's checks, like, 4 $10,000 cashier's checks, and then 10 $1,000 cashier's checks. So either way, you're prepared for the auction. Now I'm going to show you an actual bid, and I'm going to do it with sound, but I'm also going to narrate it because it's hard to hear exactly what they're saying. So let me remove this one. I'm going to add this. So this lady here, I'm going to press pause really quickly. Sorry. This lady here is the representative from the law firm. So she's going to come out at first. I'm not going to show you that, but she talks about the property, gives a legal description of that property, and then she starts the bidding. Typically, they're starting the bidding at what is owed on that property. So it's not the value of the property, because hopefully, again, the value of the property is much more than what you're going to win the bid for. So you're going to see two men who are going to go back and forth bidding on this property. And again, I'll try to narrate it so you can understand it a little bit better, but she's going to start the bid at 266. 266. So the guy in the green hat says 267. 267. The guy in the tracksuit says 268. And they're adding their initials to the end of the bid because there's a lot of people out there. So for her to keep track, she's writing down their initials. So they're saying like 269 LS, and that might be, their initials. So now it's up to 270. The man in the green hat says 271. 271. The man in the tracksuit says 272. 272. The man in the green hat says 273. 273. The man in the Adidas tracksuit, 274. 274 going once. So he goes to 274.5.
274.5.
So he goes to an even 275,000. She's gonna say going once, going twice.
Twice.
So he wins the bid because, and a lot of the people that are on site, they may be bidding for other people, like other investors. So a lot of them are on their phones, they're figuring out how high that investor or their partner perhaps is willing to go on that property. And a lot of these investors, they'll go to different places, to bid on foreclosures. Somebody asked me about the ability to bid remotely. Auction.com does give you that option. And so a representative typically from auction.com will come out, and then they'll have, if there's some online people bidding, and there are people that are present bidding, they'll like say what they're doing on the computer, and you can bid live as well. So there is an option in some cases that you can bid remotely or virtually. So just check out that option. I know it's definitely on auction.com. You can check out foreclosure.com. And then I'm going to add this so you can see like he is getting his cashier's checks together. So she's waiting. This is a legal representative. He's here like getting, his denominations of cashier's checks because he's agreed to pay $275,000 for that property. And, the expectation is that you're going to be paid that day. And she has some paperwork that's going to go with that he has to sign. But typically, that's his property. He'll get, the paperwork that's going to go along with that. They'll file the deed and all that kind of paperwork as well. So this is pretty much how the process works in a lot of areas. Of course, it could be a little bit different in your area. But I just want you to have a basic idea, because a lot of first-time home buyers, to try to save money, they're very much interested in the foreclosure process, but they're not, you have to have cash for the most part at those foreclosures. Now, some of them may not be as high as, $275,000 cash. There was a property sold for like $25,000. So you have to just do your research, see what's out there. And, I definitely recommend that you at least attend to see what is being auctioned, how much, are people bidding on those properties, how many people are coming to these auctions, how much competition you're likely to have. It's just a good learning experience for anyone. So I definitely think first-time home buyers should get a feel for that. But if you're interested in, if you don't win at the foreclosure auction, and the bank can't sell it, they generally list them for sale. So I talk about that in this video, all about how to buy a foreclosure. Please like and subscribe to my channel for new videos every week.